And as you know, you're our fifth interview this week, and we're just happy to have you. I'm gonna let all the board, we're gonna introduce ourselves again and just tell you a little bit about ourselves. I'm Kathy Brown. I've been in this city a long time, 37 years. Have 5 children that went through the school system, graduated, and also my dad's 1950s graduate. So proud to serve, humbled to serve our city in this capacity. So thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm Kim DeShazo. My husband and I moved here to Trussville about 16 years ago. We've got 3 kids that are in the Trussville City Schools system right now. So I'm here on all kinds of for all kinds of reasons tonight. But thank you for being here. We appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Mark Sims, nice to meet you. And we moved here 8 years ago for schools, and very passionate about education. So looking forward to this.
Hi, my name is Sherry Tolbert. I've been living in Trussville for 17 years, and I have 2 children that graduated from here at Trussville High School and been through the whole system from time Trussville started all the way. And I love my community and love serving my community.
I'm Steve Ward. I've lived here since 2006. Retired educator, mostly in Georgia. My 2 grandchildren have gone through the Trussville City Schools, and we want to welcome you and look forward to hearing from you tonight.
Well, thanks for being here. You know, we sent all the candidates a question bank, and then we have those questions, and we're just going to kind of round robin it, you know, up and down. It should last for about an hour, and we can ask questions and then maybe some follow-up questions or some clarifying questions. But we're going to start out first 2 to 3 minutes. Tell us anything you want to tell us about work, education, family, anything you want us to know.
Well, first of all, just thank you for allowing me to interview. I feel honored to be here tonight. You have a great school system. I mean, looking from the outside in, you know, there's a lot of promising aspects of this school system that you should be proud of. You know, I've stolen some things from social media and from your web pages that I think are great ideas. So, you know, investigating what's happening in the schools and academics and extracurricular opportunities. I think it's exciting to see what's going on in your schools. And, you know, I'm a mom first. And so I do have a student who would be coming with me as well as my husband. And one's already going to be graduating, going to Auburn. But, you know, I think it's just important as I research your district and look at the things that are going on, that it's a good fit for my family as well. We are very service oriented. We serve our church and we serve our community. And so looking from the outside in, it seems like there's lots of opportunities for our family to fit here. We think it's very important to fully immerse ourselves in the community that we're in and to serve that community. And so it's an exciting time to look at a new district. We've been in most of my career has been in the Birmingham area and in larger districts. We did go back to Haleyville. I had my children actually had 4 of their great grandparents still living, and we just felt like it was a time to go home and for them to experience that life of seeing their grandparents before they, you know, and getting to know them before it was too late. And we have not regretted one single second of that. But you know, I professionally want to grow. I want to challenge myself. I always want to better myself, and I think, you know, there's an opportunity here for me to do that personally. From the outside looking in, you know, there's so many good things going on. And, you know, you see the grandpas and the Blanche Award and all of those things going on at your schools and the academic opportunities that are here, as well as the community involvement. And it's hard not to want to be a part of that. So, you know, thank you for having me. I'm honored just to be here tonight. And the other applicants are also phenomenal. So I know that they did a good job as well. But, you know, I look forward to telling you a little bit about myself and maybe potentially, you know, seeing if I fit as a leader for your school district.
Thank you. Did you bring family with you tonight?
I did.
My
husband's here. My 2 boys are here, and some other supporters from my district and from my past. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I guess I'll start off. As the new superintendent of this school system, what would be your actions for the first month, the first few months, and the first 6 months? And how would you gauge your success at that time?
Okay. In your packet, there's lots of information, but about midway through is sort of an entry plan. I think it's very important to be a strategic planner, even with myself, and hold myself accountable. And so if you look at this plan, it sort of stages itself in 7 areas. And that's a rigorous and relevant curriculum instruction, employee expertise, accountability systems, financial resiliency and responsibility, community relations, school and student safety, as well as equitable opportunities for all students, And as you look through that packet, it's just a way for me to hold myself accountable as I really get to know this district. It's important right away, I think, for me to sit down with you all and figure out your individual goals and your priorities and what you believe is the future of Trussville City Schools, each of you individually, and then collectively for our stakeholders in the community. I think it's important to gather their input. And, before you ever begin a strategic plan, to really get to know what the priorities are and what the vision and mission is for this school district. So if you see there's an outline sort of how that would look, but of course that will change depending on a hire date and it will be flexible. But the priority will be get to know our administrators and our students first. I'm very people oriented. I believe in the mission, I believe in the vision, but I also believe that people always matter. And I believe for us to be successful, we have to gather input from all of our stakeholders. And me coming in from the outside and knowing relatively little about your district and your stakeholders, that will be a priority, is for me to get to know what makes Trussville great? What are the traditions? What are the expectations of this community? So if you see, it also has some fundamental questions that sort of follow that. What are the traditions of the district? What are our strengths? What are our growth opportunities? Are all students having access to everything that we do? And I think those are important. And in that plan also, it holds me accountable for making sure that I understand where we are financially, where we are with academics. How do we assess students? What is our expectation for student growth? But the basis of that plan, I would say, is just getting to know the stakeholders of this community. I believe it's going to be very important early on to build lasting and trusting, transparent relationships with the stakeholders in this community. I think from the outside looking in, they value that. And I think I feel like that's a strength of mine. I am about people. I do want us to have a strategic plan and follow that strategic plan. But at the end of the day, we got to take care of people and it's especially our students, and make sure that they're safe and that they're excelling at everything that they do, both academically and, in extracurricular opportunities, because I think that's equally important. So, at the end of, I guess, that data collection and entering period, then we would start to really look at goals and vision and what our strategic plan is. So I think until you really have a plan and you have those goals and you've set sort of a plan for the future, I think then that will be what you base your evaluation on. It will be based on academic data, attendance data, graduation rate, all of those things. I think it's also important to do some surveys of the morale of our district and the morale of our teachers and those types of things. But you may have many of those things in place. So it'd be interesting to see what already is in place and then use that as a springboard to continue to move forward and not recreate the wheel, because you're obviously a solid district. You don't get, the data and the participation and community support that you have without there already being a very strong foundation. So, I think I learn about that and I invest in getting to know the stakeholders, and then we together build that strategic plan for what you guys and the stakeholders and I myself as the leader would see as the future of Trussville City Schools.
Well, let me ask you this. What kind of value do you place on advocacy, parent groups, advisory groups? I couldn't get the word out. Advisory groups. What kind of value do you place on that? Employee, stakeholders, community, business. I mean, is that a big part of your, discerning the information?
It's essential. I think I can have all the plans in the world, but if it's not a shared vision and if it's not plans that are collaboratively developed in our community, then, my plans will probably fail. And so I think it's important for everyone to have a voice. I think that diversifies your opinion at times. And, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I can find people who are. And together, I think a collective body can be very much more powerful than an individual voice. And so I think those groups are important. I think if everyone has a seat at the table, they feel valued. And that's very important to me. It's a part of my leadership style. In my current district, we use the motto commonly that you matter. And that applies to everyone, not just certain administrators or certain teachers or certain students. Everyone in an organization matters. And I think if everyone feels like they have a voice and that it's truly used and utilized to help with the success of a district, then a district has more capacity to be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So while on that note, can you give me either some examples or some thoughts that you have on how to foster such a positive culture with amongst all the stakeholders? Because obviously you've got parents, you've got administrators, you've got teachers, you've got students, you've got a board, you've got a lot of people that you're helping motivate and keep in a positive and create a positive culture. So what can you do to help with that?
Well, I think that is a strength of mine. In my current district, there's several things that we do to ensure that people feel like they're valued and that they are part of the team. Currently I write letters to every single employee in the month of July. Here I might have to start in June. There are quite a few more, but just writing them a letter every summer and just letting them know we're excited about them coming back to school and that they matter. I present all over town, anywhere anyone will have me, about what's going on in our school, and just showing people the great things that are going on and telling them how their involvement in projects and in what we're doing as a school system allows us to be stronger. I think, you start out with that entry plan. It has many stakeholder groups listed, but also we all know that that doesn't reach every parent, that every parent is not going to come to a meeting, that there may be roadblocks to that we create, such as times and meeting dates and those types of things. And sometimes it's just they didn't have a good experience in school themselves, or they haven't had a past experience that's positive in a school setting. And so I think you gather data through those meetings to see if there's stakeholder groups that are underrepresented, and then you find ways to include them. It's very important for me to be visible and to be available. And I find that when I'm at ball games and when I'm in the church parking lot or when I'm in the grocery store, I gather a lot of data in those very informal settings, because a lot of times I see parents in those settings that are not ever going to make, an appointment and come to my office, or they might not attend a parent meeting, but they will, if you build those relationships and you have establish the fact that their voice does matter and that you're willing to listen and you're willing to be available to them, and that they're not just telling you and you're never going to do anything about it, that there's follow through and they feel respected. I think that you gain a lot of information from that. And so I think in looking at those formal meetings, you evaluate the data of who's there and who's not. What if there are subgroups that are underrepresented, if there are certain groups of parents that we feel like are not attending, and then you figure out why, and you figure out where we can go to them. Can we make ourselves more accessible through meeting locations or times or dates, or having neighborhood meetings, or going to certain churches, or going in our population. A lot of times we have some of our staff go with us into certain neighborhoods that are underrepresented, so that we can have sort of a community meeting, and it may happen in a parking lot. It may happen, near someone's home, and we just do everything we can so that every voice is heard, because we want everyone to know that they're part of the team. Team building is very important to me, and making sure that everyone feels like they're part of the organization. And like I said earlier, I just think the more voices and the more strength you have in collaboration, the stronger your organization is from top to bottom.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the 5 candidates, and you're one of them. I'm just curious before I ask my real question here. Why do you think you're one of the 5?
I think my skill set is strong. I think I'm a strong leader. I think I have proven myself to be a strong leader in this state. I'm involved in AHSAA Central Board. I present at a variety of conferences. I have built strong relationships with leaders across the state, and I believe I'm respected as a leader. I also think that I've had the ability to build strong relationships with those around me and to support them, and to, support them in the good and bad, and reach out to them when, they're in times of struggle. And when you see, news articles and things like that, where a superintendent or an administrator is struggling. And I think we have a strong ability as an administrator, not just to serve our own district, but to serve others around us that are in the same capacity. And I think I have earned that respect. As a district leader, we have 73% of our students who are free and reduced lunch. And we have increased our report card to an 89, over 9 points in the last few years. Our attendance rates have, our excessive absences has decreased. We have 100% growth in my district. We've hired SROs and hardened our exterior of our buildings and increased the safety for our students. We've hired a STEAM coach. We're the first school district in the nation to have all 4 of our schools STEAM certified on the same day. So I think my body of work speaks for itself as well. I'm a hard worker, and I'm a go-getter. I'm super competitive. I probably need to know that up front. I'm super competitive and I want to win at everything I do. And not just because I feel like there's personal gratitude in that, because I feel like if I'm the best I can be, then I'm helping other people around me, administrators, teachers, and students to be the best that they could be. So I think I've earned the respect of many people around the state for my body of work. And, I think that's why I'm here. I think that's why I'm considered a leader in this state for that body of work and just how I've built relationships and done a good job.
So let's take the term leadership. How would you define your leadership style? What really works for you as a leader?
Well, I think as a leader, you have to be very situational, but I think there's fundamental core beliefs that shine through no matter what you're doing. One, I would say I'm visionary. I would say that for that to be a successful leadership trait, though, it has to be shared. It can't be an individual vision for where we're going and not be supported by those around you. And so I think one of my strengths is starting with the end in mind and gathering the strengths of others and being collaborative with my team and us deciding where do we want to go as a district, as a team, where do we want to go as a district, but leading that vision through that process and then setting quantitative and qualitative measurable outcomes of how do we know if we're successful and we're reaching those goals. And so, to be visionary, it's very collaborative. You have to rely on the strengths of others. You have to solicit input from others and truly make sure that everyone who is a part of that vision or under that vision is on the same page. And I think when you solicit that input from others and you truly lead through that vision, when you have skin in the game, it means more. Number 2, I would say that team building is a strength and relationship building. I like to work in collaboration with others and I like to build off the strength of others. I don't like to work in solitary, situations. I like to build those teams to where everyone feels valued and they feel appreciated and they feel like their input is important. For example, in my district, I feel like at any time a teacher can email me, call me, text me. They all have my phone number and they can say, this is an issue I'm having, or this schedule doesn't work for me, or, I need professional development in this area. And they know that I'm going to be responsive to that. And I want them to be successful. And, a lot of times I just feel like when people feel like they're on the team and they feel valued, that they want to be more successful. They want the school or the district to reach their goals. And so it's important for me for people to feel like they're on the team and that they have, a voice. And that goes for parents as well. I want parents to know that we're accessible and we're responsive. And those are 2 very important things to me. There's lots of ways to communicate with parents and we use lots of ways, mass communication, email, social media, all of those ways. But a lot of times if you'll just pick up the phone or if you'll just ask a parent to come in, if there's an issue, you can resolve that. And I think that makes them feel like they're part of the team. I think they're essential components to their children's education. And we have to value their slot on the team or their slot on the roster. I think the community is also important to build that team. We in my district, in the past 2 districts I've been in, have heavily relied on the community to be successful, not just financially, but just supporting us and being at events and supporting our kids. It's just so important to have that partnership with the community. And so I want them to feel like they're on the team. And so I do everything that I can to include as many stakeholders as possible in decision-making and in celebrations and in recognition so that they feel that they're publicly validated for the work that they're putting into our school district. And last, I would say that it's important to me, like I've said earlier, that everyone feels like they matter. and that they're valued within our organization. You know, I mentioned writing letters. I also do a weekly newsletter on Wednesdays where we have champions of the week and teacher spotlights and, you know, extra mile team members where we're celebrating people within our district who are going above and beyond. And, you know, we do as much as we can with our community, like a back to school block party where all of our community businesses come out and they give away door prizes and we have inflatables, and we're just welcoming our kids back to school at the beginning as an entire community. You know, we do games, celebrations, and those types of things as well. One thing that stands out is a couple of years ago, we put our teachers on school buses during our professional development day, and they took cookies and donuts and things to our local businesses and to our police and fire departments, and just took pictures with them and let them know that we appreciated the fact that they were part of our team and they were on our team and they mattered. So, you know, I think those are preferred leadership styles. At the same time, there's times when I have to be the leader. And sometimes that is sort of authoritative and it's more of being the boss. And I'm very comfortable in that role when necessary. It's not the way I like to lead. It's not my preferred leadership style. But, you know, I think if you ask anybody on my payroll who was the leader and who was the boss at times, they would, you know, there's no doubt about that. At the same time, you know, I want us to win together and I want us to celebrate together and I want things to go well. But I also have very high expectations for myself and for those around me. And I expect you to do your job. I expect you to honor and respect those around you and your peers. I expect you to follow the rules and follow the policy and procedures of this school district. I expect you to respect those who you work with, and I expect you to respect students. And if those things aren't happening, then we're going to have some serious conversations and there may be action taken, because we're going to do the right thing. We're going to be the best we can be, and we're going to work hard, but we're going to do the right thing as well. And so that's not how I prefer to lead, but that is definitely a tool that I can pull out if I need to. Because I do believe that, you know, like I said, if we win, we all win together and we're all successful. But if we fail or if something's going wrong, it's on me. I'm accountable. I am the accountability, you know, for this school district. And I realize that. And I realize that, you know, that accountability begins and ends with me in certain situations. And so, you know, I like I said, I love to be positive. I love to be collaborative. But if the time comes, I can also, you know, be a leader and and step up in times that may be difficult and have difficult conversations to ensure everyone that we're going to do the right thing and kids are going to be safe and we're going to be, you know, we're going to do what we say we do. We're going to be the organization that we stand for.
So I want to talk about student achievement. Can you give me examples that maybe in your district of how did you eliminate the gap? So I would love to hear some of your examples.
Well, we have rather large gaps. We have a high population of special education students as well as socioeconomic disadvantaged students. And so one of the things that we do collaboratively in our district, we do have an administrative retreat. And that includes all principals, all assistant principals, all of our directors, everyone in that leadership role. Our athletic director is there. You know, anyone who truly is in a leadership role in our district attends that retreat. And what we do is we bring all the data from the year. It can be discipline data. It can be, you know, our surveys we do, academic data, and we look and see if there are any glaring opportunities for growth at the district level first. These are usually attendance. They're usually sometimes teacher attendance, you know, sometimes student attendance. They are issues that we're seeing in our discipline data, you know, or there are things that are just don't look right to us, or they're, you know, attendance issues, those types of things, as well as overall academic growth issues. And we decide where we want to go. And we make goals and plans of how we are going to support that goal financially through our work, as you know, through our research. We do professional development in that area or in those areas to make sure we're doing everything we can to reach those goals. Our individual schools also bring their data. And so collectively, we look at that data and we say, what are your goals as the leader of your school? What are your goals? What do you see as opportunities for growth in your individual schools? And we help them form school goals for their schools as well. I think it's important to have outcomes that you can measure that are quantitative in nature, because I think we need to check those. You know, need to have checkpoints and make sure that we're truly doing what we say we do. And so once we form those goals each year, we revisit those each month at our administrative meetings. And we say, are there any resources you need? Is there any professional development you need? How do you feel like you're accomplishing these goals? What can we do to help? That's a common question I ask. What can I do to help? And so we check that even at Christmas with our mid-year data. We look at our ACAP scores. We look at our Ready scores. We compare those to PSAT scores, any kind of data pieces that we have. I excel at the high school, and we just ensure that we are making progress toward that goal, and that it's progress that we believe will help us to get to that goal by May. And then we continue the same process over in the second semester. And then the next year at retreat, we reevaluate that goal, the data that was presented, the growth that was, exhibited, and we decide, have we accomplished the goal? Or is this still an area that we need to really focus on because we weren't able to be successful? So I think, each school district is different as far as what their needs are and how they assess that. One of our needs was math across the district. And so we are heavily involved with AMSTI, heavily involved with A+ College Ready. We provided additional coaching and professional development to our teachers. We had the new Savage Reading series, and we didn't feel like our teachers truly understood how to best implement that and just didn't have enough practice. So we went back to the company and we said, do you have professional development on your actual curriculum that will help our teachers to be stronger? And so we fully believe that our math scores will be a little bit more solid this year. And if not, we will go back to the drawing board and provide more resources and figure it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you a little bit of that and see what your thoughts are on. Of course, we all know that teacher shortages, we've read about this, you know about that. What are your ways in which you would like offer to recruit teachers, train teachers, mentor teachers, retaining teachers, and at the same time incorporating morale?
That's a lot of questions in one, so I'm gonna give it a good shot. Okay, first of all,
5 hours, so that's.
we got plenty of time. Well, I think the teacher shortage is an issue. And not being in a metropolitan area or close to a metropolitan area or close to even a college, UNA's relatively close to Haleyville, but overall, we're a pretty rural district. And so we have to be creative, and we have to not only attain the quality teachers, but retain, as you said. And so I think it's very important to be at college fairs, to make connections early. We make a lot of connections with professors that are at universities and ask them to send us, students for student interns so they can be in our buildings earlier. Also, we've been creative with the retired teachers. We have several retired teachers, 1 or 2 in special ed, 1 in math, who we're paying their maximum, retirement wage, and they're teaching full-time at that $34,000 rate because they want to be a part of what we're doing. And so I think that goes back to sort of that establishing a culture of excellence and where teachers feel supported and they feel like they want to be a part of what you're doing. I think that helps us retain teachers. I think you also not really recruit, but you see the talent around you and you hope that you can maybe, encourage them to come and be a part of what you're doing. I think your social media presence is great. Your web presence is great. And so a lot of times you attract people just because they want to be a part of your culture and the culture of excellence that you've established. It's not easy. Special ed, speech, their math, science. I mean, there are many areas that are hard to fill, especially in a district my size and a rural district. But I think you have the ability through the great things that are going on to retain teachers at a little bit higher rate. I know some districts pay higher, some, they are very creative with that type of thing. But I think before you go that route, you create a culture of excellence that people want to be a part of. And I think when you do that, you retain teachers when they feel appreciated, when they feel like they have a voice, when they feel like they matter in your district, then it's hard to leave there and go somewhere where they don't feel that same involvement and respect that they feel in your district. So that would be the cheapest and most financially responsible way to do it, would be to truly create an environment to where people want to be here, you know, and I have been able to recruit people and to pull people into our district and retain people. I truly believe because of how we run the district, because people feel valued and they talk to their peers and they talk to other people, and they're just not treated the way we try to treat people. And so I think that's important. And it has been successful for us. It's still a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for years to come until we make some adjustments in certain areas. But, you know, I think you have a lot of power to do great things in a district if it's run the right way and if people feel like they are important to the district.
Thank you.
Let me just piggyback off of that. So, you know, recruiting and retaining teachers, but let's go back to high school students that are going off to college. We've looked at some data over the years from different colleges that there's not a lot of students going into education.
Right.
So would you have a plan for encouraging or something we could do as a high school level to encourage students to go in, you know, to education?
Well, I definitely think that a lot of schools, we have not done it, so I'm not speaking from experience yet, but a lot of schools are really looking into those teacher academies and incorporating that into their career tech academies, and having those teacher preparation classes. A lot of times when we have students who expressed interest in special education or in elementary education, we use our peer mentoring program to put them, you know, when they express that, or our job shadowing, to put them with other teachers during their, you know, off period, or they call it different things, their aid period. And so we try to incorporate them into those classrooms so that they have those experiences. I think having an education academy is a solid idea. We haven't had the funding to hire a teacher who we feel like at this point, you know, we could make a sacrifice and it might increase some class sizes and that type of thing. And so we haven't had the luxury of doing that, but I do think that is very successful in many schools, and putting children into those academies early, where they have experience with lesson planning, with curriculum instruction development, with having a mentor that, you know, they can call on and rely on when they get into an education program in a college, I think is important.
Thank you. I piggyback. So
Go
can I have
ahead.
another
You
question?
may. You may.
You talked about strategic planning. You just touched on it. So what's your process for coming into a district and looking at that, and how would you go about that?
Well, I think, you know, I'm not sure where you are currently with a strategic plan. So the first step would be to see where you are. You know, just looking through your websites and things like that. I think there's been some collaboration with the city of Trussville, or the Trussville 2024 plan. And it seems like there's a lot of academics incorporated into that. But what I would like to do is really use that entry plan, and that when I gather data from that entry plan, to make sure that I truly understand the district. I truly understand the voices of the stakeholders, and then pair that with the Trussville 2040 plan and what you already have, and just marry those plans together to see if we need to revamp some parts or tweak some parts, or if we need to just sort of start all over and develop a plan. But I think it's very important. And there were a couple quotes that I loved in that plan. One, it says, if our schools are a premier destination for education, then our city will more likely become a premier destination for families to live, learn, grow, and experience a high quality of life. And I believe that. I believe schools are the cornerstones of solid, progressive communities. And so if this district wants, or this community wants to continue to grow and be successful, then Trussville City Schools needs to be a place where a high quality education is a given. It's just expected, and it's what we provide every day to every student. With that strategic planning, again, I think it's a shared endeavor and a shared vision, to where you're involving stakeholders from your maintenance department, your technology department, TSFO, your community, parents and students. And once you compile that strategic plan, I think then you're representing that, and you're making sure that everyone's comfortable with it, and you're sharing it before it's officially adopted And then you're setting those goals and you're making sure that you're fulfilling what you say you're gonna do. So I think input really does yield buy-in. I think that's important. And, another statement from that plan is that progress will be made when the future is well-defined, well-planned, and well-developed. And I think the same thing is true for a strategic plan for this school district. It has to be well-planned, it has to be well-developed, and truly looking to make sure that we're defining what we want to be as a district. And once that's defined, then you build a strategic plan from back to front. So basically setting, an expectation of where we want to be as a district, and then building it backwards to where are we today? Where will we be next year? Where will we be in 3 years? Where will we be in 5 years? So that we're meeting the needs of, or fulfilling that plan and meeting the needs of our students.
Thank you. Sorry.
And that, you're good. So every district, every relationship has conflict at times. So tell me, and you can use examples or just your general thoughts on how you handle conflict, whether it's with a teacher or an administrator, a student. What is your leadership style, or how do you handle conflict?
I'm pretty head on. I'm pretty direct. I like to sit down and let's work through it. Some people are not as direct. And so I think when you get to know the personalities of your staff and your administrative team, especially, and how they work and what they need and how they best respond, sometimes I have to back off a little bit, and there's a little bit more coaching involved in those types of things. But, I like to handle things quickly. I like to handle things efficiently, and I like to very much document where are we going from here. In a school district this size, there's going to be conflict. People are going to mess up. Kids are going to mess up. Your administrators there's going to be hiccup. There's going to be a roadblock, but it doesn't have to be detrimental. It doesn't have to be something that breaks a relationship or that, it gets you so sidetracked that you can't move forward. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, something there has to be swift action, but I'm very face to face. Commonly there's an administrator or a facilities and maintenance director or, a teacher or an aide who just stops by and says, I just need to talk, and a lot of times they don't need an answer. They just need a listener. They know how to solve a problem. They're fully capable of getting to the solution. They just need me to listen. And sometimes it's the same with conflict with a parent or with a student or with a teacher or with an administrator. If you just sit down and listen and take the time for them to be heard, you can usually work through that conflict, relatively quickly. But, two things you can guarantee: I will always be professional, and I will always respect the person who I'm dealing with. And I think if you talk to the people I work with right now, they'll say they always know where they stand. There's not a, I'm this way one day and I'm this way, another day. They always know where they stand, and they always know that I'm willing to have a discussion and talk through things and make sure that at the end we may not agree, but we understand each other. We understand, why there had to be a disciplinary action or why they had to be written up. Unfortunately in my career, I've had to let some people go, and some of those people I had great relationships with and I loved them. I mean, they were some of our best teachers, but something happened that I had to let them go. And I'm still very close to several of them to this day and have written them recommendations, and they've worked through, whatever issue that was. And they feel like I supported them through a very difficult time in their life. They did not meet the expectation. They did not fulfill what we expected them to be and how we expected them to act or how we expected them to teach at that current time. But that doesn't mean they're not worth helping, and that they're not worth having an advocate of how to help them grow so that those things don't happen again. So very few people I would say I've had a conflict with that we haven't been able to resolve. There are some that probably more on their part than my part didn't really care for a resolution, and that happens. But I do want to work with people and find a resolution, and I want people to enjoy coming to work with us and in our buildings. And, we work hard and we play hard. We have a good time. We laugh together. We go out to eat together. We celebrate each other. But at the same time, those expectations are very clear. And I expect people to meet those, and I think that's fair. When you know, you're fair and you provide an equitable expectation for everyone when you are fair, and when you hold everyone to the same standard.
So, just jumping off of that, how do you make yourself, or how do you provide access to stakeholders to come and express, you know, if they've got an issue that they need your attention with, or something they want to bring to your attention?
Right. Currently, because I'm in a smaller district, everyone has my cell phone number. Everyone has email. They stop by at any time. I mean, I'm not joking when I say there's somebody in my office commonly at least an hour or two a day, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, just to, you know, have a conversation and make sure we're on the same page about an issue, or make sure that, you know, they're doing what is expected, that type of thing. And so, you know, here, I mean, of course, most likely there would be appointments that need to be made to make sure I was in the office, because I do want to be in schools a lot. But I think often the fact that I'm in schools a lot, and I'm available at ball games, and I'm available at band concerts, and I'm accessible in the community, we solve a lot of problems before they ever have to come to my office. You know, I have lots of conversations in public where somebody just needs to be heard, and they need to tell me what they think. And, you know, it could be from an 80-year-old to a, you know, 15-year-old, and they just want to be heard, and they want me to know what their opinion is on an issue. And so I think when you're accessible in the community, it does reduce the amount of maybe meetings or formal type coming in to see the superintendent, you know, those types of things that happen. And so I would say that, you know, my children don't want to go anywhere in public with me, hardly Walmart or anywhere, because it turns into, you know, a long conversation often. They say I run for mayor everywhere I go. I promise I don't. But, you know, it's just being heard. It's being accessible and being intentional about the fact when we're having those conversations that I'm fully engaged. You know, I'm making notes on my phone, or I'm, you know, so that I can follow up and let them know how we address that situation, or that, you know, I listened to them and I appreciated them sharing that information. And so it's pretty much an open door policy. I know that people say that and then it's really not, but I'm pretty accessible to anyone in our staff.
Thank
And
you.
parents and students as well.
Thank you.
So, you know, as a superintendent of a school system, you've got all these responsibilities. I mean, academic achievement, managing a staff, federal programs, special education. Which ones excite you the most? I mean, which one of those, like, you know, I mean, because everybody can't be a master of all hats. I mean, which of
Right.
those hats do you just love to put on and dig into?
I would say student achievement, but I would almost put that in the category of special education as well. You know, I've been blessed to be above average intelligence. You know, my children are average intelligence, and we haven't had, yeah, don't tell them that, yeah. But, you know, we haven't had struggles. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, physical struggles or emotional struggles or those kind of things, we've been blessed. And so, you know, not all kids are, you know, not all kids have an advocate. Not all kids have somebody standing in the gap and standing in their corner. And so I think it is very important for me to ensure that financially and with the right programs and with the right people and the right staff, that we're taking care of that special population of students. But I think student achievement in general is exciting. You know, I honestly say this, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in this interview, but I do think Trussville City Schools can be the #1 school district in this state. I think that the potential is here. I think the capacity is here. I think the community support is here. And so, you know, personally, I would challenge myself to see if we could reach that mark. I think the sky's the limit with this district, and that sort of excites me as far as if we do sort of put on the interview hat for a second. I think the potential is here to be the #1 school district in the state. I think all of those factors are in place. I think you just need the right leader, and I think I could be that leader. So that's exciting. But, you know, as far as looking at special ed or special programs or those kind of things, and what excites me when I see kids succeeding, sometimes it's those kids are a little bit the underdog. You know, they don't have the superintendent as a mom, you know, they don't have a doctor as a mom, or somebody who is, you know, even a mom who stays in the home, but dedicates their life to making sure that everything is solid and good for them. And so, when the underdog succeeds, I like it. I like to see see us help them to get and to maximize their potential and to just be celebrated for the great things that they have accomplished.
I have one more question on top of that. It's one that you and I came up with one time.
Oh,
So,
which one?
because you mentioned that, every day there's people in your office and that's usually, let's be honest, that's not always fun. What does your perfect day look like as a superintendent?
Some of my favorite days, I like to start off a lot of times at our schools welcoming students in. I'm blessed that we're all on one campus. So my office connects, just by one road to the high school, one road to the middle school, one road to the elementary school. So we sort of make a block. Yeah. Yeah, and I can walk. I might not get run over. But I like to start out welcoming kids and letting them know, saying good morning, have a good day. And whichever school I'm at, I pop in and see our administrative team and try to encourage them, try to interact with students. I believe that, I've been in very large school districts and I've been in a smaller school district. And there's no excuse to not know kids. Now, you may not know every kid, but, to interact with kids and to speak with them and to make sure that they know who you are and that they matter to you. I think it's important. I read in classrooms and introduce myself to the kindergartners and we sort of progress that up so that they know who I am, all throughout their educational career. But, I want to start out with kids as much as possible. And then be in the buildings, say hello to people, get the day started. Usually then going back to my office and seeing what is happening there. But, if you start there, sometimes you get stuck there. And so sometimes it's fun to start out in a school and to be a part of a short data meeting or administrative meeting where I can hopefully provide some assistance or insight into what's going on that day and meeting with teachers and supporting them in ways. I think, if I don't know what's going on in classrooms and I don't know what's going on in schools, I really have no way to best ensure that I'm supporting them as the leader. A lot of times we eat lunch as a central office staff and it's sort of a lunch meeting where we're talking about special programs, we're talking about special ed, we're talking about any ways that I can provide support to make sure that we're on the same page with big issues or with opportunities for growth or celebrations. And then almost every day I finish my day at a ballpark or at a band competition or at a Scholars Bowl competition or, something that involves kids. My kids have just grown up going to the ballpark or going to the band competition or, whatever's going on in the school we're a part of. And I guess that's why I say we like to serve. I think that, we want to be impactful in the community that we live in. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that here, but, I want to start out with kids and hopefully end with kids. And when you do that, everything else in the middle, even though it can be in the weeds a little bit, or it can be stressful, or it might not be the most pleasant things that I'm dealing with. When I start and end with kids, I've had a pretty good day. So I like to do that.
I have a question. Can you tell me how important it is to have a diversity staff from central office to administrators to teachers? Tell me how important is that to you to have a diversity district?
I think it's very important. I think kids need to feel like they're represented in the people that they look up to. In my current district, we have hired several minority teachers and several teachers who have had huge impacts on kids that some of our other teachers didn't have access to have that. They just didn't have that relationship with those students. In my current district, as well as my previous district, we've done a lot of training with cultural diversity, with respective teaching practices. In my current district, we do a lot of training on understanding poverty and understanding how socioeconomics impact us. But as far as a teaching staff, I think it's important for it to be representative of your population, but also if it can't be, if you just don't have applicants that do represent, every student or every culture, I think it's important that there's a lot of cultural awareness training and that teachers truly understand the differences that each child brings. I think diversity doesn't often look the same. You know, diversity can be socioeconomic. It can be gender. It can be race. It can be disabilities or limitations that students have as far as equal access to opportunities. And so we've had speakers like Pete Key and Liz Huntley and H.K. Dareberry and you know, Brian Mender and these speakers had very different backgrounds in school than what a lot of our teachers had. They had struggles. They had, you know, they had challenges that were probably perpetuated by teachers who didn't understand diversity and didn't understand equity of education. And so I think it's important for your staff to hear those stories and see how impactful not being responsive to those differences can be on students for a lifetime. One thing that we do as well, you know, besides hiring practices, is we look at our data and we see if there is inequity in our attendance data, in our incident reports. We look at equity differences in AP and dual enrollment. You know, are there socioeconomic barriers to our students not being able to take dual enrollment classes that maybe we haven't thought about? We look at access to extracurricular activities. You know, are there things that we're not even intentionally creating barriers, but because we're not intentional about not creating barriers, we're creating barriers. You know, I think it's important for you to look at career tech classes. For example, traditionally, you know, we didn't have many female students in welding and auto technology and those types of classes. They need access to that and need to be encouraged to participate in those classes that would put them in industry jobs that can help them to be very productive, you know, workers and citizens. We also look at girls in STEAM. We look at our numbers of females in our higher level sciences and our higher level maths, and are those equitable, as well as students who maybe are in a subgroup that have some educational difficulties. Are we encouraging them to take those high level classes, and are we providing equitable opportunities academically and extracurricular, you know, activities for all students? And I think every school district should focus on that and want that to be a priority.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you mentioned you're visiting classrooms. How do you balance visiting classrooms without causing a disruption, causing the principal to have to stop what they're doing during the day, causing the teacher to stop what they're doing because the superintendent walks in? So how do you balance that? How do you equate that?
Well, I will say that if the district is not accustomed to that, it can take some time to get accustomed to that. Currently, you know, probably when I started 6 or 7 years ago in, you know, doing that as a principal and just being in classes and stopping by and doing those quick, just hello, how are you doing, leaving a quick note, it made people uncomfortable. But I think we have developed a community of learners that just accept me as part of the community of learners. They don't even notice anymore. You know, my own child, I walked into a class, he was in kindergarten, and he looked at his neighbor and said, "Don't pay attention to her, she's just a superintendent." You know, so, you know, we've built a community of learners where all of our administrators, our coaches, our central office staff, we're just in and out of classrooms and just visiting, and we're not evaluative in that model. We're truly just there to see what's going on and celebrate kids. And we leave notes and we don't evaluate them in that 5 minutes. And, you know, I never have a negative interaction. That's the principal's job. You know, I just want to get to know them and get to know their kids in their classroom. So at first, it can be a little bit of a growth process. But I think the more you do it and the more they're used to it, you know, now I get emails. Come see me in third period. We're dissecting frogs. Come see me. We're doing this cool literacy example to where, you know, we're doing a short story or we're having a short play. Come see my classroom. So now, because they're recognizing our newsletter and they're competitive too, you know, they love to be in the newsletter and they love to get that shout out and that public recognition. You know, we've created a culture where they're inviting me into their environment. And that doesn't happen overnight, especially if you're not used to it and accustomed to it. So I think you start small You see what, teachers are comfortable with it, and what administrators are comfortable, and then you work into it, and it may take some time, but I think it's important. I think it's important for me to truly know what I'm supporting and what's going on in our schools. And, it's hard to make decisions as a board and as a superintendent when you're not involved in that learning process, and you're not involved in what goes on in the school every day.
Follow up a little bit on this also. We've talked about teachers and the support of the teachers, but what about the lifeblood of the school? Those support people, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, the maintenance work, all of these individuals. How do you work them in, and what's your philosophy on that?
But they're very much a part of our team. We have leadership teams within each school, and it is represented. We have representatives on those teams from our custodial team, from our maintenance staff, from our bus drivers, from our lunchroom staff. So when they meet as a school leadership team, it is representative of all categories that are of employees in their building. And that is where we would do a master schedule. That is where we would send out the district calendar. That is where I send out, usually what happens is I send out several different points that we're going to talk about at our big district team, which is when those individual schools come and meet with me as a district leadership team. So we send out sort of the talking points for the next big leadership team meeting, and then they work together to, get that information out to their peers, to gather input, to gather feedback, and then they bring that to a big leadership team to where they're representing all the custodial staff in their building. They're representing all the lunchroom staff in their building. They're representing all the support and paraprofessional staff in their building. So their voices are heard. They're part of that team. And sometimes as educators, we make schedules or we decide things that aren't good for our lunchroom staff, or, that they don't fully support our custodial schedule. And so I think if you don't have those team members present, sometimes you can schedule things and you can do things not intentionally, but their voices aren't heard and they don't have a seat at the table. So I think it's very important that they feel like they're a part of the team. They are part of the team. We can't transport kids safely and feed them and make sure our buildings are safe and make sure our buildings are clean without those valuable team members. And so, they are essential to the success of a school district.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. What do you see as your role between yourself as a superintendent and your school board, just in general? I mean, it doesn't have to be us five.
Right. Well, I think.
We're charming.
Yeah, I can tell. I think the key is, first of all, getting to know you all, getting to know what you're passionate about, what your strengths are, what you bring to the table, what you see as the vision, and then also what your expectations are for me. I think that's very important for us to establish that early. What do you expect as far as communication? What do you expect as far as how we work together? And then I think you move on to those other essential components. I think communication is essential. I don't like surprises. I'm sure you don't like surprises. And so it is my job to communicate not just the issues or potential problems, but celebrate those things that are going good in your schools. And so you would be included in that weekly newsletter so that you could see all the things that are going on in each school, and you could see, what we're celebrating. And in that, I usually have just a short letter of encouragement and what is our focus on for example, the ATOT, and what dimension we're working on that teacher observation tool. Here's some research articles. Here's some ways you can grow. Here's some of the expectations. And so that what's going out from me to every employee, you see that you can, celebrate those employees with us. I think it's also important for us to realize what our collective goals are for the district: capital outlay, financial management, student achievement. Where do you want to see our district grow as far as the board, and what are your expectations? And then I think, you have to be truly informed of every decision that you're going to make. I think sometimes we make decisions that we don't have all the information. And a lot of times that's on us as a superintendent because we didn't communicate effectively and we didn't give you the information you need. And so I think it's important for us to be transparent and us to be able to have open communication and you to question me when you have a question and me to question if there's things that I can understand. But, essentially I want to build on your strengths and what you bring to the table and for you to allow me to guide you and lead you and provide you the information you need and communicate with you so that you can truly make the best decisions for this district. This community puts you on this board because they have full confidence in the fact that you're leaders and that you can lead this district. And so I don't want to do anything that makes anyone feel like you made a decision and you knowing that I was the one who did not give you the full information you needed to make an educated decision. And so I think that partnership is so important. And, I think we too have to be a team. We have to be on the same page. We have to know what's going on in this district and we have to support it in every way that we can for students to be successful.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? So the floor is yours. If you have anything you want to say to us or any questions you want to ask us.
Well, I would like to ask, and not everyone has to answer, but there's so many great things that are going on in this district. So what are maybe something that you feel like is a huge accomplishment or something you feel like that you take pride in it and gets you excited and passionate about what's going on in Trussville City Schools?
You want to take that, Steve?
Academics.
Agreed.
Extracurricular activities. Our retention rate among teachers, our strong financial stability, our support of all stakeholders, how well we work together with our city government. All of these kinds of things make us one of the best, if not one of the best school systems in the state of Alabama. And we want to continue doing that. And we want to know if you're the one to lead us or not. Are you the one to lead us? Why are you the one?
Well, I'm fully capable of taking this district to the next level. And, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be given this opportunity. I sleep very little and I work a lot. And I think that's the kind of leader that it takes, I'm going to do.
What are your 5 strengths? Or less, 3 to 5? What are your strengths?
What are my strengths? I think I'm courageous. I think I'm compassionate, but I think I'm passionate. I think I am resilient. I think I'm flexible. I could go on and on. You want me to?
That's okay. That's good. That's good.
But I agree. I agree with everything that you've said about Trussville City Schools. And I'm from the outside looking in. So I know that all the great things are not on social media. But I will say this, you don't get to be the district you're talking about without great people. And I think that's what you should hang your hat on more than anything, is that this district has got to be filled with great people because of your report card, because of your academics, because of just the wonderful things that are going on. And you look and you see them dressed up and you see them, in Santa hats, and they're doing Santa on the lawn, and there's community members there, and there's board members there, and there's superintendents there. And, it is about people. Now we have a mission and we have a vision and we have a strategic plan, but what's exciting about this district is the people. They're the ones who are impacting kids. They're the ones who are more important than any program, any financial, monetary, incentive you can throw at anybody. It's just about people. And if you understand people and you care for people and you love people, your district is going to be successful. And I think that's what's special about this, is that it is evident in looking through your social media and your web pages and the way you celebrate kids that you have phenomenal people in this district.
Do you have some closing thoughts? I know you asked a question. You probably got more answer than you wanted.
I just appreciate you all having me. I think Trussville could be a good fit for my family and I. I am someone who seeks to challenge myself and to grow and to be better today and tomorrow than I was yesterday. And I think this district does give me that opportunity. And I do think I'm the best leader for this district. I think we could do great things together. But if I'm not, I want you to know that the capacity here is endless. And so set that bar high because you have the capacity and the foundation to do great things. And, you know, I want you to be the #1 school district in the state because it's a special place just from the outside looking in. And I think that those standards have to be high and that support has to be high and the sky's the limit. So I would like to thank my family for being here. I think my high school principal is here, who's been a superintendent in Alabama for 21 years. And he probably is the reason why I'm sitting here. I went into pre-pharmacy at Auburn and Mr. Mullins would call me about a month, every month and say, have you changed your major yet? You going into education? Have you changed your major yet? And I'll be like, no, I mean, I was a teacher's kid. I knew you only get paid once a month. I didn't want to be in that. And so he continued to call me. And so I did change my major to education. And so he has always been a supporter and always been in my corner. And so he is a true advocate for education and as well as a personal friend. And I love him and appreciate their family. But, you know, I guess in closing, I will say, you know, I don't just interview for jobs. I'm pretty steady in where I invest my time and where I invest my family. And for me to even consider moving my family here, it's got to be a special place. And I don't say that because, you know, you're on the board, but, you know, I'm a mom first. And, you know, to move a child in middle school, you know, we prayed a lot about that and we thought a lot about that. And it takes some resiliency and it takes some, you know, some guts on his part to be here and to know that, you know, he's going to make that transition possibly in the future. And so, you know, you need to know that you have a special district, that people are willing to move their family and to invest in this district. It's a big deal. So I have enjoyed it. I know I talk a lot. I appreciate the questions that you've asked and just the opportunity to share about my district and my philosophy and to learn about yours has been exciting. And your district is impressive and you should be very proud.
You say that's your high school principal in your system now, or he was your high
My
school?
high school
Oh, wow,
principal.
that is a testimony. Mine wouldn't show up for anything. I don't think, so.
And I didn't even do anything bad.
Well, thank you so much. We enjoyed it and you'll be hearing from us one way or the other as we work through this process. I know where we won't be tomorrow night. We will not be here. This is our
Bless
third
you.
night. So thank y'all and thank your family for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet y'all.